Hey guys, it's Jen, and you're watching Living the Catholic Life, and I've been inspired to do another video today. I've been praying on it for a couple of days because I wasn't sure if, in telling you this, that I wasn't coming off as judgmental or not being understanding or empathic, sympathetic to the situation that I'm going to talk about. But as I'm finding more and more every day, God is making me his mouthpiece, whether I want to be or not, or who I offend or don't offend. So I guess it's something I'm just going to have to learn to just deal with and move on. Just say what I have to say as best I can and let people sort that out for themselves. So with that, I'll start my story. I was in adoration, probably, I think it was last week, Friday maybe. And the adoration chapel at this church is perpetual adoration, and it is like a side chapel that has 10 seats and 10 prie-dieux, which, like the kneelers, the little things you can lean on, those things. So it is a very tight area. It can get warm when it's full, with all the body heat. And, it is, like I said, a small area. I had gone to adoration, like I told you, I go after the 11:30 mass to just kind of sit for a few minutes, especially after the time of receiving communion. For the first 10 to 15 minutes is, Jesus is really in you and working with you, and if you have any special requests, that's the time to do it. So I go in and I first of all, I can't kneel on the floor like a lot of people do. I ain't getting up if I do that. So I just, reverently I bend, and sign of the cross, and that be it. And of course, a lot of you know that I veil in Mass, so I still have my veil on because I'm in the presence of the Eucharist, of Christ. And I take my seat. And I see a seat in the back, in the right corner, which was pretty much the only one available. So I sit and take my coat off as quiet as I can, grab my rosary beads and my books that I need, for the time I'm going to be there. And I get up on the prie-dieu, and it's loud. It creaks, And I'd remember this from before when I had been in there. But, normally it's like, oh, it's just creak it, whatever. Well, there was this lady in front of me and just to the right of me who was sitting there praying. And as soon as that thing creaked, she was like, making all these gestures and shaking her head and, plus face on. And so I'm like, okay, whatever, I'll just try to shake it off. It's really hard for me sometimes to settle down because my brain goes so fast all the time. I know where my son gets it from. So I'm there and I'm trying to get myself acclimated there. And I also get one of those people, the older I get, the more I can feel people's vibes and what they're giving off and how they feel about things. So, of course, this woman's, slightly annoyed. She must have been annoyed. She must have been annoyed about something when she came in to pray, because she was, I'm guessing, I don't know. But anyways, I say my initial prayer and I go to sit back, and of course it creaks again, and I get the puss face again. So I'm settling in, and directly to my right, sitting next to me, is a woman. And she's been kneeling since I came in, and she's been praying, and she brought in with her, I think it was probably like a 3-4-year-old daughter. And 3-year-olds are busy. I'm not going to judge on whether a child should be in adoration or not of that age. All I know was I picked up that the woman was crying and trying to control. Her daughter's busy. She's looking through the Bible, and she's, playing with the rosary beads and making a little bit of a commotion. You got, the lady in the front of us making the pucker pose, every time the little girl made any kind of little noise or anything. And the mother goes to blow her nose, and it's just a little tick, 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 and the woman, she's shaking her head, and and it really started to bother me that this woman was doing this. I think because I'm a mom, probably that I mean, was the little girl a little, was she a disturbance? Yeah, I'm not going to say she wasn't, but obviously this mother was in a position mentally that she needed to be there. And she was trying to deal with her daughter while she was experiencing whatever she was going through in her life. And the woman in front did turn around, but she didn't have the nerve to make eye contact with the woman that was next to me kneeling and crying. And if she had, I think probably, I'd like to think that her demeanor would have changed. However, it didn't, and it really started to bother me, and I couldn't concentrate. I don't know really how other people felt in the room, because I wasn't picking up on that, because I was just so disturbed. I was more disturbed by the woman who was upset than I was by the little girl making noise. And so I began to pray for the woman in front of us, that she be more understanding and she be more accepting and loving. And I'm not even sure that this woman was still praying her rosary at this point. I don't, I think she just turned into like the adoration police or something, I mean, we've all had, disturbances from children, in church, in mass, in one of my old churches, it was like a holy day of obligation. There was literally a little girl running back and forth in the vestibule while her parents sat in the back row, and she was laughing and screaming. Who she was running with, I have no idea. But she was very much a disturbance. And, the people I was sitting with, we just kind of like, oh, and we just started praying for the parents and the little girl. They eventually did get up and leave. But um, it just seemed like such an unchristian thing to do. Like I said, I don't know the woman who was making the faces. I don't know her story. I don't know what would have made her become so angry. I mean, I get that is Jesus. We are in front of Jesus. But Jesus also said, bring me the children. And that little girl was also in Mass, which I didn't add, but she was also in Mass earlier. And she was perfectly well behaved. But Mass is an hour long, sometimes 45 minutes long. And, for 3, 4 year olds, it's a long time. But her mother obviously felt like she needed to be there. And I wish I had known the woman more, or the little girl, and like kind of maybe tried to assist a little bit. Um, but what really bothered me was when the woman in front had apparently had enough of the nonsense. She gets up, she kneels down on the floor, and she gets up from that, and she turns, and she looks at that woman at the prie-dieu, and she sees that she's crying, and she still gives her a dirty look and walks out. For those of you that know me, I was this close to going out there and giving her a piece of my mind. But I'm just hoping that the prayers that I said for her were enough, that she may look back and see that, I understand her frustration in that, this is Jesus. This is Jesus. Why are you not being absolutely still and absolutely quiet? What I forgot to add is there was another time that I'd gone up to Neil, and she, gave me the look, and I literally felt so uncomfortable that I whispered, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm trying to be quiet." And she just turned her head, like I could help being, that the prie-dieu was creaky. As a matter of fact, we went back. I think Saturday night, my husband and I, or Sunday night, we went back to adoration, and there was a man who was at the spot I was at the other day, and he kneeled on the prie-dieu, and it crick, 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 and I just had to smile a little bit, because I'm like, it's not me this time. But like I said, I don't know what that woman was going through in the front of us, why she would have been so angry. But I do want to say this because this has been put on my heart. The Jesus that is in that adoration chapel is the same Jesus that you receive at Mass every Sunday. And if you aren't getting down on your knees or prostrating as low as you can go when you receive that communion on Sunday, then there shouldn't be all of that at adoration. It's the same Jesus, and you need to understand that. It isn't like the Jesus that's in the adoration chapel is any more special than you thinking it's okay to take communion on your hand on Sunday, which we've always been taught. The church I grew up in was, now that I'm finding, is a liberal church. We weren't taught to take it on the tongue ever. It was always in the hand. But if he's so holy and he's so sacred, why don't we treat him the same way that we do when we go to receive him? And for another thing, why don't we make sure that our soul is as clean as we try to make our hands when we receive him in our dirty hands? Seems like we're more worried about the germs on our hands than the germs on our soul. We're more worried about making sure somebody else toes the line than us. And that's why I'm saying I don't want to be judgmental and calling people out on what they believe. I just want it to be out there for food for thought. That's all God's sending me to do. Send the message. People can sort it out the way they want to. But I hope that the woman who was crying got her answer to her prayer that day. And I also hope that the woman who was so angry because she was disgusted by what was going on realizes that this woman probably could have used some help, or at least a prayer, or something, and just not negativity, not shouldn't have been made to feel disgrace because she was there and obviously opening her heart, and she probably knew that she was compromising everyone that was in there, but her need was so much that she needed to be there with our Lord for an extended period of time. So I hope everything comes out well for both of them. I was able to, after the woman left, to settle down and start praying for my needs and the woman that was sitting next to me as well. But just think sometimes that you trying to control the situation at hand isn't always the best thing. Let God sort it out. Let him take control of it, because everyone is there for a reason. And bottom line is, they're there when some people aren't. So please just take what I said as, just for some consideration, and don't think that I'm, trying to offend anyone or make things difficult or to be judgmental. It's just food for thought. So until we talk again, guys, God bless.